Hello and welcome to our Empower Hour Sharing Your Story session. We're so pleased that you could join us today. I'm Maya Potter, the Events and Digital Community Officer at Target Ovarian Cancer. We're joined by Susannah, Catherine and Sarah today, who will be speaking about their own experiences and how they have each shared their stories through Target Ovarian Cancer. Amy, Jess and Sarah are also joining us from the Target Ovarian Cancer team to give additional information about how you can share your story in a way that feels right for you and answer any questions. I'm now going to hand over to Susannah and invite her to introduce herself. So over to you, Susannah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susannah, and I'm an ovarian cancer survivor and a breast cancer survivor. I was first diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2015, in October 2015. And before this time, if you asked me to name the symptoms of ovarian cancer, I would not have been able to. I first noticed some discomfort around February 2015, and I was feeling bloated and constipated. And I thought it was because I had not really had regular bowel movements. And I was sort of thinking maybe I had inherited something from my mom because she used to have issues with her bowels. I eventually went to see my GP and he thought it was IBS. So I was given tablets for IBS. I took them for a few weeks, but didn't notice any improvement in my symptoms. And I started having pains in my abdomen. So I ended up going to the A&E one evening. After waiting for a few hours, I was seen, and then the doctor now said that it was likely I was constipated and that I should go back to my GP. I felt my symptoms were dismissed and I was not really listened to. So I went back to the GP and complained of my symptoms again. And then I now mentioned to the GP that the pain I was experiencing was sort of similar to the pain that I had when I was told I had fibroids during my first pregnancy. So hearing this, the GP now referred me to have an ultrasound scan in the hospital. This scan appointment didn't come through until the end of August 2015. And I was so surprised. I was at work, and few days after work, few days after the scan, the GP gave me a call and said I was being referred to the hospital for further tests and scans. And this got me a bit scared and worried. So when I went to the hospital, I had several blood tests done. I didn't even know what blood tests they were doing, but I knew I had lots of blood tests. And then I had CT scans and MRI scans done. And then I was scheduled to see the doctor to discuss the results. So on the 2nd of October, 2015, I went in, and because I wasn't sure what to expect, I went with my husband. And it was then at this appointment that the doctor told me that my CA125 was quite high. Usually it's between 0 and 35, and it came back as more than 3,000. And he said it was quite likely that I had ovarian cancer. This was quite a huge shock to me because I had never thought about ovarian cancer. This had never crossed my mind. And I felt I was up to date with my cervical smear tests. And I didn't know that ovarian cancer was something that I should be worried about. So from that time on, things just moved very quickly, and I was scheduled for surgery on the 19th of October. I had total abdominal hysterectomy, and this with the removal of my ovaries and everything, and they found that the cancer had spread to my pelvic lymph nodes. So it was classed as stage 3. But fortunately, they were able to take out everything. Unfortunately, after this surgery, I had bowel obstruction, and this led to further surgery to correct this, where I had to have a stoma, and this was a bit troublesome, so this had to be reversed. So in total, I had 3 surgeries within the space of 3.5 months, and all this, I was still in hospital. So I ended up being in hospital from October till the end of January 2016. And during this time, my oncologist advised that I should have a genetic test, as my diagnosis was at quite a young age. I was just 38. And the test revealed that I had a BRCA1 gene mutation. And this explained my diagnosis, and also meant that I was at risk of breast and ovarian cancer. Obviously, I'd had ovarian cancer. So I was now to be on yearly monitoring for breast cancer. My mom passed away in 2000 from cancer, which was thought to be lung cancer. But looking back at the symptoms she had, I discussed this with my oncologist, and she said it was likely that that my mom had ovarian or breast cancer, which was misdiagnosed. My younger sister was also diagnosed with breast cancer at around the same time as my own diagnosis in 2015. And she sadly passed away in 2017 after a 2-year battle following metastasis. After recovering from the third surgery that I had, I started chemotherapy and I had 6 cycles. Then I went on to monthly monitoring, which eventually extended to 6 monthly as my CA-125 results became stable and they went back to the normal range. My scans now showed no evidence of disease. By this time, I had joined the ovarian cancer community of Target Ovarian Cancer on Facebook, and I was benefiting from the shared experiences and resources from the Target Ovarian Cancer website. I think it was whilst I was in hospital that I was told about Target Ovarian Cancer. So I sort of benefited from the information that I could get there because I had made up my mind I wasn't going to go on Google to be Googling symptoms and checking things. And I wanted something credible. So I stuck to Target Ovarian Cancers and Cancer's website and a few other charities that focused on ovarian cancer. I remained in remission until February 2020 when I was told my CA-125 had doubled again in the space of 6 months. And I was referred to have a scan, and this showed that the cancer had come back. I was initially being monitored for a few weeks, and then the CA-125 level was still rising. And when it now went above the normal range, then I was told that I would need to have surgery again and further chemotherapy. And this was quite hard for me because I just got back to doing my normal activities again and back to work and just trying to get on with life after an ovarian cancer diagnosis. Well, thankfully, I had successful surgery and the mass which had spread to my diaphragm was removed. So I had chemotherapy following this, and then I was now started on olaparib, which is targeted therapy to help prevent future recurrence. During my recovery, I started attending the Target Ovarian Cancer online yoga and relaxation class, and this was really, really helpful because it helped me to regain movement and just get myself active again. And it also gave me the opportunity to interact with other survivors of ovarian cancer. And I got to, interact and feel like I was part of a community. In 2021, for my birthday, I set up a fundraiser for Target Ovarian Cancer because I felt that they had really been supportive and I had benefited a lot from the ovarian cancer community and the online classes and other events. I also shared my story as part of the Target Ovarian Cancer BBC Lifeline Appeal in July of 2021. And by doing this, I felt that more needed to be done to raise awareness of the symptoms of ovarian cancer, because as I said, I didn't know about the symptoms of ovarian cancer. And we all know that early diagnosis does save lives. In August of 2021, I was diagnosed with primary breast cancer, for which I had surgery and radiotherapy. I'm currently on yearly monitoring. Last year, I took part in the Target Ovarian Cancer's 10K walk in October with my daughter, and we raised some more funds, thankfully, from our sponsors. It was very fulfilling, and I had fun. I got to meet wonderful people. I got to meet Anwen Jones. I got to meet Catherine and a few other people that I got to meet Sarah as well during the candlelit ceremony in December. And, the fact that I was asked to do a Bible reading during the carol ceremony, it was really good. And I felt quite honored to be part of that service at the Tower of London. It was quite an amazing experience. And it's just so great to know that when you're going through this kind of situation, like an ovarian cancer diagnosis, you're not alone in your journey. There are other people. Target Ovarian Cancer has been a lifeline to many women including myself and our loved ones. And I'm quite blessed to have benefited from their services. And I'm glad that I've shared my story to help empower more women to share their stories and to enlighten others and hopefully help save more lives. I'll hand over to Amy now. Thank you.
Thank you, Susannah. I also just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Susannah's actually been in the news today because we've done an article about International Women's Day. Susannah's appeared on a couple of local websites around London, which is really amazing. So thank you so much, Susannah. So just to introduce myself, I'm Amy. I work in the communications team, and along with my colleague Charlie, we are the people who run the Share Your Story programme at Target Ovarian Cancer. So that is very much how we got to know Susannah. And I know there's a couple of you on this call today that will have come across myself or Charlie. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview as to what Sharing Your Story sort of involved and what the programme's all about, really. I think the important thing to say is it's all about empowerment and letting you guys have your say and really amplifying your voices. So what we do at Target Ovarian Cancer is we have on our website, we have a whole stories section, and on there there's a form that you can fill in just to express your interest in sharing your story. And once Charlie or I receive that form, we will organise a phone call with you. So, for example, when I met Susannah at the Christmas Carol service, a couple of weeks later, we ended up on a Teams call just to discuss what her experience has been like. And from that conversation, I went away and wrote up a first-person account of how her experience with ovarian cancer has been, how it's impacted her, and also why she wanted to share her story. As part of that, we ask that people send in photos, maybe videos, just so that we can show our community, we can show the public just the importance of improving early diagnosis around ovarian cancer, and really just show people the true side to someone's experience. So I thought it might be useful to just talk through a few reasons why some people share their stories. So for a lot of people that I've spoken to over the past few months, a big reason why people want to share their story is because they really want to make change happen. Many of you might know that we at Target Ovarian Cancer, we have a big, we campaign quite a lot, which Jess will talk through later and Catherine will talk through as well. But a big reason for people wanting to share their experience is because they want to change the future for women who may be diagnosed or are at risk. Another reason that I hear a lot is that many people tell me that they can feel quite isolated when they are receiving a diagnosis, and that by sharing their experience, they want to help others feel less alone. And that's a really big factor. And I'll go on to where your story might appear, but I'm sure some of you will have seen it on our social media, on our website, and will have seen other people's story as you go across those areas. And yeah, as I said, campaigning is a big part, but right now, especially during Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, it is raising awareness. So we really are trying to raise awareness of the symptoms, experiences, and that's very much one of the reasons why people come forward, contact us, and ask if they could share their story. So yeah, as I mentioned previously, so when you, I've got a link to the form in the next slide, but when you go to the form, you'll see that there's various areas where you can say if you'd like your story to be shared and where it may be featured. But I just put a few examples here of where some of the stories have been featured. So Linda's story, for example, was in the annual report this year. As I mentioned, Susannah appeared in the news, and then we've got the stories section on our website, but also across our social media. And there's all these different aspects where your story could be shared, but it's completely up to you how you want it to be shared. So our priority is making sure that you're comfortable, that your story's out there in a way that you want it written and you want it to be told, and it is used where you want it. So, for example, if you weren't wanting to share your story with your local paper, we'd make sure that we didn't proactively put it towards your local paper. But there's just a few examples. So on the next slide, please. I just put the reasons there again, but I just put a section here just on how you can share your story. So I know I've spoke quite briefly about this section, but please do check out our website, which has lots of information on how to share your story, but also please feel free to drop me an email and ask any questions after this session or on the session about what sharing your story involves. Or there's another email address there where you can just drop me or Charlie an email. So yeah, that's just a really brief overview as to what sharing your story is. But I'll now pass over to Catherine.
Hi everybody. Hi for those who I know. Good to see you. I'm Catherine. I was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer in April 2019. So when I finished treatment, I had a real desire to make a difference. I thought people would listen. I'd be on the national papers. I'd be, on the Lorraine show. I'd be with the Prime Minister. But in reality, spreading the word can be really difficult. However, we're all here, and I'm convinced that if we all pull together in whatever way is best for us, our voices will be heard. So I'm going to spend a few minutes telling you about how I've raised awareness and some of the campaigning that we've done. And I know you guys, some of you guys, I see Linda, I see Pauline, I see Diane. I know you're all fantastic at raising awareness and spreading it in your local communities. But for those of you that are undergoing treatment and don't feel able to contribute, just know we're out there shouting for you and shouting for the people that are coming behind us. As you probably know, my oncologist letter said in December 2019, I've got a 20% chance of surviving 5 years. Well, I don't want that letter to be on anybody else's doorstep. So I'm determined to raise my voice, campaign for change. So I was chatting to Jess and she said, tell them a little bit about what you did last year. So this time last year, when I'd realised that I wasn't going to be on the Lorraine show or in front of the Prime Minister, I decided what area could I actually influence, and I decided that I'd have to go local. And so I thought, right, my local town, I'll turn it teal. And I'd seen a guy in Altrincham, he had prostate cancer and he turned Altrincham blue. And I thought, okay, I'll turn Harpenden teal. So we turned the town teal. I did a deal with the local balloon shop, not to be recommended, by the way. Balloons aren't such a great thing. And then I went across the high street. So as many shops as I could, mainly the independent ones, all had a display of teal balloons and posters in their windows, symptoms, etc. So just for 1 week, I wanted the high street to look teal, for there to be a consistent message everywhere somebody went that they couldn't miss it. I put things up in the GP surgeries, the leisure centre, the dog parlours, because they're very popular in my area, and also the local bus company had it sort of going around the town. A local boutique did like a fashion show, and they put the money towards Target Ovarian Cancer. I did things that many of you do. I went to like the Women's Institute and presented at the Women's Institute, not as a medical practitioner, but just as me trying to raise awareness. And I stood in many key but cold locations trying to raise awareness and money. And then I put it on as much as I could on the local websites, Facebook pages, etc. One of the things I really enjoyed was a local bakery sold teal cupcakes for 2 weeks, and every cupcake sold, they put £1 to Target Ovarian Cancer. So everywhere we went was covered in teal. So on the Saturday, there was the main event on the high street. I sold the teal cupcakes, and we sold awareness bags that were made by my friend Julia. We had heartfelt discussions. We watched women walk away reading the symptoms leaflet, telling us they hadn't known the symptoms before. And of course, they all told us they were up to date with their smear tests. So we had to put that right as well. But it really energized me. So that really motivated me to keep going. Then on the Sunday, I brought it even closer to home. I had my neighbours. So we had 58 of my neighbours all turned teal. So on the Saturday night, my house was full of balloons. On the Sunday, I spent hours untangling them, hence never use balloons. But the whole street was covered in balloons, posters. I put an information board outside my house because we get a lot of people cycling by. We even get some horse riders, etc. And people would come up and say, what's going on? But the really good thing about it was it also brought my neighbours together. I know so many more now. So Jess and I talk a lot about campaigning. And my MP did do a very short, haphazard video telling people about the Saturday stall. But that was my sort of turn the town teal. It was focused 1 week, everybody aware that it was Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. It was really hard work. And I know Diane's done lots of stuff like this too. But it is, once somebody walks away with that leaflet and they read it, it's really very, very motivating. So coming on to my MP, now this was, I had no idea about campaigning. I didn't know how it worked. And this time, sorry folks, this time last year I attended a session and Target Ovarian Cancer were talking about you need to influence the decision makers. And I thought, I don't even know who the decision makers are, you know. So I had a follow-up call and thankfully they didn't judge me and they just introduced me to the world of campaigning and sort of how Parliament works. So this year I've got a Christmas card from my MP and it says, thank you for your interest. And so one day I hope to send him one back to say, thank you for your interest. But I wanted to say something a little bit about our MPs, you know. They're elected by us to represent us and to put our concerns to the House of Commons. Now, so if we've got a real issue, they can go and ask government ministers to raise a question about our issue. And I don't think we do this enough. So if there's a particular campaign we feel strongly about that, Jess will talk to you more, but I know that we can sort of be more proactive and get more questions asked in Parliament. Well, all I can tell you was I think it takes determination and a thick skin. You know, I often try and engage with my MP. Sometimes there's no response. Sometimes there's a response that just pacifies me without any tangible action. So, and then I thought, right, why, you know, what is this? And then I thought he's getting all his other constituents, they're writing to him with all the things that are important to them. And of course, he's got his own passions and interests and career aspirations. So my priority was to learn as much as I could about the system and making my interactions with him as personal as possible. So Target Ovarian Cancer, they make those introductions easy for us. So when they have campaigns, things like the Teal Heroes, all we have to do is click on the button, put in our postcode, and that produces an email to our MP, and we can send that off. And it's such an easy thing to do. So I'd encourage you all to make the most of their hard work and to do that. Every time I see one, I always just take the opportunity to personalize it, refer to something that's been in the news that he might be interested in, anything to try and get his attention. So, and my MP, he doesn't have health as one of his priorities. So I've reached out to him and I've asked him to include this. You know, when he's on the radio, I listen to him and then I write to him. You know, I read his constituency news, I fill in his surveys. You know, I'm surprised, you know, he doesn't change jurisdiction, to be honest. But I listened to one of his radio broadcasts and he laughed. And he laughed about his next job might be the Secretary of State for Health, as if it was something less important. So my outrage finally resulted in a handwritten letter from him. But even with my Christmas card and my handwritten letter, it's very much a one-sided relationship. And I'm forever hopeful that my persistence will pay off. So I'm nearly finished, but I just wanted to tell you couple of things. You know, the MPs are also members of committees. There's an all-party parliamentary group, and this is an informal cross-party group. So there's one for ovarian cancer, and the Labour MP, Sharon Hodgson, she's the chair. Target Ovarian Cancer do all the secretariat, and it's often attended by medical practitioners and sometimes people like us who have had an ovarian cancer diagnosis. So I recently attended one, and that helped me realise how Parliament works and really the importance of us continuing to engage with our MPs. Because as soon as we've engaged, I feel as though he's almost ticked off the list and he's forgotten about me. So it's like them keeping that sort of momentum going. So, of course, the overall responsibility for health is currently with Steve Barclay. He's our Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. And as you know, we've had a whole host of health secretaries recently, you know, including the much in the news, Matt Hancock. So therefore, attracting their attention of a revolving door of health secretaries, you know, we need to keep their engagement, you know, and so that can be quite challenging when there's somebody new every year or so for us to keep that momentum up. So in June last year, I was part of the group and I loved it. Thank you, Target Ovarian Cancer, who handed in the petition signed by 21,000 people to 10 Downing Street asking for change. The request, there were two things we were looking for: a sustained large-scale government-backed campaign, so being clear that cervical smears don't detect ovarian cancer and highlight the 4 symptoms. We were asking for a shortening of the diagnostic pathway with the CA125 and ultrasound being carried out at the same time. Now, I think this happens in Scotland, but it's about everybody in the UK having consistent and timely access to treatment, whatever their background, age, ethnicity, etc. So I've written to the Health Secretary to maintain momentum. And whilst there is the new campaign that's helped us to help you, that was launched in 2020, and it focuses on abdominal and urological cancers. But what we want them to go further, to focus purely on ovarian cancer. So I've recently written to my MP. Jess recently wrote to my MP, and we're asking him to table a question in Parliament, asking them how successful the campaign is and what's the impact on the early diagnosis of ovarian cancer. So if I get a response, I'll let you know. So if you want to be more proactive, Target Ovarian Cancer will work with you. They'll talk to us about their current priorities. You know, I always talk to them first, then I write to my MP because I want to make sure that it's relevant. So there have been many, many developments, but there's still so much to do. So together, I think our voices are stronger, and hopefully it's given you some thoughts about how you might want to get involved too. So on that, I'll hand over to Jess.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was fabulous. And thank you so much for sharing all the amazing campaigning you've been doing. It's hard to follow that, to be honest, but I'll do my best. So just to introduce myself, I'm Jess and I'm the Senior Policy and Parliamentary Officer at Target Ovarian Cancer. I sit in the policy and campaigns team, and part of what we want to do is to work across all 4 nations and introduce policy that would transform awareness, diagnosis and treatment of ovarian cancer, which is where campaigning comes in. Campaigning, I'm sure, as from what you've worked out from what Catherine has said, is all about influencing those who have the power to make real change. And it's only possible with our wonderful campaigners that we are able to do this. So I'm going to take you through a few of our key priorities, things that we're working on, things we want to see improved, and how you can get involved and campaign on this. So what are our key priorities? As we know, we want to shorten the diagnostic pathway. Currently, the CA125 blood test and ultrasound are carried out separately, meaning there is long waits for diagnosis in between. We want to see them carried out together, making sure more women are diagnosed faster and receive an earlier diagnosis. This is already done in Scotland, so we want to make sure it's done across in Northern Ireland, England and Wales. This was also, as Catherine mentioned, part of our open letter request. So we're going to keep going with that message this year to get that diagnostic pathway shortened. We also want to see sustained investment in awareness campaigns. So as we mentioned, we have the Help Us Help You campaign, which launched in 2020. And we've also seen that relaunched this year, and it focuses on abdominal and neurological symptoms. We do hope that as the abdominal pain is a symptom of ovarian cancer, that more women are recognising that and going to their GP. Hopefully the question that Catherine has submitted to Bimafalomi MP and questions that we've also asked MPs during our Till Here event last week will mean we'll get an answer to see how many women are being diagnosed at an earlier stage and presenting with that symptom more to their GPs after the NHS England Help Us Help You campaign. We also want to make sure that no matter where you live, everyone can access treatment, that whether it be clinical trials or different types of treatment that would suit the cancer that you've been diagnosed with. We know that from our clinical audit that we had in 2020, that many women where they live can sometimes not access certain treatments that other women might be able to access, say in London, compared to living up in the Northwest. This is something that we want to change, and a big thing that we want to work on this coming year, which hopefully we'll have some exciting plans that we can announce later in the year with that. So there's our key kind of areas that we're working on. So it'd be good to know how you can now get involved. Can I go to the next slide, please? Feels very parliamentary asking for the next slide there. So yeah, so we have our campaign toolkit. So this is an amazing way to either start your campaign journey or take it to the next level, like Catherine. So what you can do is there's so many different ways. You can either simply just raise awareness in your local community. Writing to an MP or speaking to an MP can sometimes can seem quite daunting, or can seem, that you're not going to get the response you hope. So simply just talking to your neighbours, handing out leaflets. I know Diane does some wonderful local campaigns at the minute. And I think you can, we can keep an eye on that on social media if you want to have a look at what Diane's been up to. But just raising awareness and also going into your local GP surgery. That's great to start handing leaflets out and seeing what your GP's level of awareness is and hoping to educate anyone there. Also writing to your local newspaper, even just putting the symptoms in during Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month or on World Ovarian Cancer Day can have such a huge impact. You never know who might be reading that paper that day or having a look in your GP practice at a leaflet, and it might just encourage them, to empower them even to go and speak to their GP. So coming to MPs, the way you can get in touch with your MP is simply by emailing them. We do have plenty of actions for you to take, whether that's just emailing your MP, letting them know of your experience, something that you would like to see change, whether that's sharing how you were diagnosed or your access to treatment. Putting your voice in an email to an MP really will make the difference. And then going on to, well, someone's just popped on craftism. So craftism is essentially, you can make, whether you want to make your own posters, bags, leaflets, bunting I know was one, and it's just selling them for fundraising or hanging them out with the symptoms on. We have a wonderful example of a lady, Julia, who created fabulous bags that had the symptoms on. Essentially, it's just handing them out and raising awareness in your local community by creating these wonderful bags, posters, leaflets, anything that can kind of inspire you and feel, and you can put your personal message on it. So there's a few different ways, obviously, that you can start campaigning. As I said, even just engaging with your MP is the key way to start doing that. Parliamentary questions is something that we can help you with. And as Catherine said, they're a great way to get an answer from a minister who's responsible for that area, or find out what they're up to at the moment on doing cancer. At the moment, we did put some information into a 10-year cancer strategy, but I don't know if anyone's aware, that's now been changed to a major condition strategy, which means it's kind of diluted the work we wanted to see on ovarian cancer. However, we'll be feeding into that, so that's definitely something to keep updated with, and something that, as when you become a campaigner, we can keep you updated on any of the work that we're doing in that area. A further thing to say is also about the all-party parliamentary group, which Catherine mentioned. We are the secretariat for that, so we organise all the meetings, and we can send out updates of what we're working on. And essentially, the chair is Sharon Hodgson, who has hosted wonderful things for us in the past, and you'll see on the bottom slide down there that that's from our open letter day, which she also helped sponsor and hand into number 10. And essentially, we invite MPs, health professionals, and people with experience of ovarian cancer to come along to the meeting to share their experience. We tend to focus on awareness, diagnostics, treatment. Most recently, we looked at menopause and the impact that can have on women having their treatment, as well as any information and support and the lack thereof. This was just one meeting, but it has actually developed onto being something that we're going to try and put into recommendations for healthcare professionals. And it just shows that even just going to a meeting and contributing your story, it really can make a difference. We're hoping to be able to put recommendations to MPs and NHS England, people who can make the real change that we need to see. So any little thing you can do really does make a difference. The campaign toolkit is there to have a look at, to see what thing appeals to you most. You can start small, and you might be so empowered that you want to turn your whole town heel like Catherine. So there's so many opportunities, and we are on the other side to help you with any questions you might have. Please feel free to ask any questions at the end of the session today. And yes, I hope some of you would like to start getting campaigning. And I now have the pleasure of passing on to Sarah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, follow that, eh? Catherine's energy, Susannah's great reach, and speaking at the Tower of London, fantastic. So I'm Sarah Winmill. I was diagnosed in July 2021 at stage 4B, the very last line on the staging table, for those of you who've had a look. And that meant the cancer had already headed into the lymph nodes in my chest and into the pleura of my lung. Right here today, though, I've got no evidence of disease, and I'm trying to live my best life, rebuilding energy from blood clots and all sorts of other side effects along the way that meant at its worst, I couldn't walk 100 yards without having to sit down for 10 minutes and catch my breath. And I know there'll be some of you who are on this call now and thinking, how on earth can I have the energy to do any of this? Well, let me tell you some of the things that I've done. I joined the online community. Now, I did that because I thought it would be good for me. And to begin with, yes, I got a lot more out of it than I put in. But what I've noticed over time is I'm able to give more positive feedback to others and to encourage others, which also makes me feel great. I then started to join the tea and chat after my treatment was over. And again, you know, I got so much out of that to talk to other women who, we don't have to talk about the existential threat that ovarian cancer brings and prognosis. We all know it's there, but we can support each other. We can enjoy each other's company and cheer each other on. And then as my strength started to get better, I did actually join the team, both at the House of Lords, handing in the petition at Downing Street, and also for the launch of the report at the House of Commons. And for me, it was about making that real. It was letting politicians see that we are people's sisters, mothers, we're children, we're real people, and we're a complete cross-section of the women in this country. As an LGBT community member, I think it's important that we recognise that it's all through the minorities, and there has to be that visibility. Just making it real and letting them have an opportunity to speak to us and hear our real lived experience rather than be something abstract and other. I was then very fortunate to be invited to work with Target Ovarian Cancer to do the videos that you may have seen, which have been published about chemotherapy and around surgery. And I think Linda and Anita are both on this call. And that was fabulous. I wasn't at full strength. There was an offer of a taxi to get me there if I needed it. And we had a really interesting morning, sitting and talking together around a table with a mug of tea in a very normal way, with lots of cameras and people watching us. But even that, it was really empowering. And, you know, for me, that's a lasting legacy. That film, you know, if the cancer comes back and gets me, that film will outlive me, and hurrah, because I want to keep helping other women who come in behind me, and I want people to have an easier ride through treatment and through the time after treatment. The next thing I've been involved with was talking about putting together a program for what happens after we finish our treatment. I think it's going to be called Next Steps. At the moment, we're doing the pilot, a group of us. And I think there were probably 6-8 of us who fed in. What were the things that we were asking ourselves? How did we feel as we came out of treatment? Again, I got more out of that than I put in. The opportunity to hear other women, to realize that I'm not going crazy. All of us have these same strange emotions, and there's a real camaraderie to it. But again, hopefully we'll create something that means for the next group of ladies coming out of treatment, there's something that's genuinely meaningful and truly supporting. And then I guess the thing that I've done, which I'm probably most proud, is actually going to the Target Ovarian Cancer team away day. I had a full away day, I think a couple of months ago, and my wife and I went and presented what it's like to actually go through the journey that so many of you are in or are nearing the end of, and my wife talking about what it's like to love someone going through that and to support them. And that was hugely impactful. It gave me an opportunity to go back through my whole story. I went through all of the photos I had, and there were things I'd forgotten that had happened along the way. And to tell that story and be real about it and talk about the pain and actually the laughter and all of the good bits that are in there mixed in with the tough bits was hugely empowering. And seeing the impact that had on the team and the questions that it asked, and hearing later how that was weaved into their future planning, just felt like it made it be worthwhile. It made meaning, and hopefully that legacy will be helpful for others. So what I would say is everything I've done, I've got more out of it than I've put in. Yes, I've used up a fair amount of energy, but I haven't needed to be at full strength to do the things that I've done. And it does mean that I now feel in a stronger place. Sadly, I have a close friend who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer 3 months ago, and I know that it's given me the confidence to help her, to support her, so she didn't go into her treatment as full of fear and as fretful as I went into mine. And I really understand now the power of us as a community and how we can help others to understand the condition that we have, to understand the symptoms and hopefully get it treated earlier, but also to support others on their journey. And I hope that some of you will get the opportunity to do that and will be as energized and as excited by it as I've been. And I'm going to hand over to Saraya, who can tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was so wonderful to hear. You've been involved in so many different ways as well. I hadn't quite realised. So thank you for sort of sharing all those ways you've shared with the community and how that has been beneficial for you. Thank you for sharing with us. That was really lovely to hear. Just to introduce myself, my name is Saraya Lynch and I am the Support Events and Community Manager. I work closely with Maya on organising and delivering our digital events and our 2 Facebook groups that make up our online community. So I'd like to give you a brief overview of our online community, what it entails and how you can get involved and share with others in a way that suits you. So our online community is made up of 2 Facebook groups, the Ovarian Cancer Community and In Touch. The Ovarian Cancer Community is an open and understanding group for everyone affected by ovarian cancer, including anyone with a diagnosis and family and friends. If you received a diagnosis of ovarian cancer, we'd also encourage you to join our In Touch Facebook group. So In Touch is a safe and understanding group just for anyone living with and beyond ovarian cancer. It can't be accessed by healthcare professionals, friends or relatives, or members of the public. So it's a safe space just for you. Next slide, please, Catherine. So I just want to say our community would be nothing without our incredible members providing tips, sharing experiences and providing support to one another. So on that note, I thought I would sort of put a spotlight on some of our members and share some quotes directly from them. Let them sell it to you instead of me. So in that top one, Jennifer speaks about how the group has been a source of information and encouragement for her since her mum's diagnosis. Tracy says she's taken some comfort from others sharing, and there was so much she didn't know about ovarian cancer, but she's still learning. Denise shares how reading other people's stories in the community has helped her when feeling down by helping her know what to expect. Helen says that sharing milestones and celebrating with other members helps get her through the day. And Megan says, although she hasn't posted much, there's just comfort in knowing there's a community that understands what you're going through. Lovely. So if we move to the next slide, please. So as Sarah explained, sharing your experience with others that understand can be helpful for you as well. So we would encourage you to join our online community for the opportunity to introduce yourself in a new post or comment and share your experiences with others that understand. You can catch up on posts of most interest to you by using the topics feature. So whether that's side effects, complementary therapies, maintenance treatments, or even travel insurance, in the online community, we discuss a wide range of topics. You can use our local meetup post to find someone that lives near you and arrange a walk or a coffee. You can watch video case studies to get to know other members and maybe even get in touch with us to record your own. You can experience our interactive digital events together and hear from experts to learn more about ovarian cancer. All of our digital events are available to watch back in the ovarian cancer community, so you can catch up at a time that suits you. And you can also sign up for Tea and Chat, which I will now go into more detail about what Tea and Chat is. Thank you. So just in case Sarah hasn't sold Tea and Chat to you, I'll tell you a bit more about it. So Tea and Chat takes place every other Tuesday, 2 till 3 p.m. on Zoom. It's a casual social session for anyone with a diagnosis. A small group of us meet over a cuppa, joined by one of our nurse advisors. We like to keep it light and fun and informal, so each session is themed, giving you the opportunity to have a good chat together, although anyone who goes to Tea and Chat would agree that we rarely stay on theme. The sessions aren't for medical advice or discussions. Sometimes we don't even mention ovarian cancer. If you haven't joined before and aren't sure, we'd really like to reassure you that you are guaranteed a very warm welcome, and we'd really love to see you. It's such a wonderful group. We've seen such lovely friendships formed with people staying in touch between sessions and even meeting up in their spare time too. So there's no pressure to join us for the full hour. You can join us a little late, pop in during your lunch break, or leave early if you need to, so whatever works best for you. If you don't feel like chatting, you can always just listen along and escape with us for a while as well. To sign up for Tea and Chat, you do need to be a member of our In Touch Facebook group, as we were mentioning. So just to let us know that you'd like to join, you can comment on the sign up post that's added to the group the week before, which you'll be able to find pinned to the top of the group. So what can I do next? What are the steps you can take to sort of share experiences with others in the community? 1, join our online community and help us spread the word. 2, sign up for a future Tea and Chat if you've received a diagnosis. And 3, record your experience in a video with Target Ovarian Cancer. So we'll be in touch after the event with more information on all the ways that you can get involved, including the ways that Jess and Amy spoke about as well. So we'll be including links to the communities and the events and how to sign up. And you can always find out more by sending an email to info@targetovariancancer.org.uk. But yeah, that's it from me. So I'll hand back over to you, Maya. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone. I think that's been an amazing session. I think in just looking at time-wise, we may have kind of overrun slightly, but hopefully that's because we've had so much information, which is great. I think we'll just maybe try and do 1 or 2 questions quickly. Just one that's come in, so for Soraya, who can see the Facebook groups?
A very good question. Where am I? So our both the groups are classified as private, so which means other people affected by ovarian cancer can easily search for the group and find it, so it makes it easier for them to join as well. However, being a member of the group won't show up on your personal Facebook profile, so only members can see who the other members are. Which also means only other members of the group, which does include a few members of staff from the Target Ovarian Cancer team, will be able to see your posts and conversations.
Lovely, thank you. And another question, so quickly for Jess, how can writing to a member of Parliament make a difference?
Good question. So, as you know, Member of Parliament are your representatives, whether you're in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. They are there to bring your concerns and your worries to the government and make it top of their priority, which is what we'd like them to do with ovarian cancer. By writing to them, you know, much like ourselves, some of us weren't aware of some of the symptoms. Some MPs aren't either. Even just making them aware of it and highlighting the fact that there's more awareness needed can make a difference in their minds. Many MPs that we do speak to become quite shocked at the lack of awareness and want to do more about it. You can, as Catherine say, get some MPs that it is a bit more difficult with, and the persistence, you have to keep going with it, but it really can make a difference. They, especially if we write to an MP who's in government, they can write to a minister, we can find out more information that we might not just have readily access to. They can ask parliamentary questions, and we can basically get ovarian cancer on the front of the government's priority. With our most recent launch of our Pathfinder report, we've seen it mentioned in the Health Select Committee speeches when they've talked about cancer services and what needs to be improved. We've seen it mentioned, we've talked to the Minister for Cancer about it. It's starting to really make a difference, and people and MPs are starting to be more aware of it. And that's because of the groundwork we're doing by writing to our MPs, speaking to them at events. So it really can make a difference. It's just persistence is key with the writing to your MP.
Great, thank you. So I think that officially brings us to the end of the session. Just want to say thank you so much to Susannah, Catherine and Sarah, the Target Ovarian Cancer team, and to all of you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. Please remember, if today has brought any feelings to the surface for you that you'd like to speak about, our support line is open from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Please call us on 020 7923 5475 to speak to one of our specialist nurses. Thank you again to our panel and to all of you for joining us and making it such a wonderful session. We hope to see you again soon and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks all, bye.